The Defence Force has been involved in several dramatic rescue operations across the North Island. Commander of Joint Forces, Rear Admiral Jim Gilmore, joins us live this morning. Welcome to the program. Thank you for being here. Can we start with the rescues yesterday in and around Hawke's Bay? We've got some images in a second which we can show people, but how many people did you manage to get to?
Te Mario, Ryan, it's good to be with you this morning, and of course before I start with that, I'd just like to acknowledge those that have been affected, and of course those throughout New Zealand whose lives have been upended and who have lost people, and of course New Zealand Defence Force is doing its part to ease that burden as best we can. The images from yesterday from the NH90 helicopters were extraordinary but not unexpected given the gravity and the severity of what was happening in the Esk Valley and further north. It was, for me, particularly moving, seeing the children hanging on the winch wire and just shows what a perilous state some of those folks were north of Napier there and between Napier and Hastings. How many people were lifted off the roofs yesterday is a figure I don't have to hand. It's a dynamic situation, and it seems like there's every couple of minutes for me there's a story coming in where our territorial force may have rescued people via Unimog or the helicopters are involved in a rescue. So those figures will come to me as the day unfolds. Are
you involved today in any rescues this morning?
Well, what I expect to happen today is going to be primarily focused, and of course NEMA is leading this, and I'm thankful for their leadership here. I think we'll be supporting them in improving understanding of what's happening between Hastings or a little bit south of Hastings and all the way through to the East Cape, particularly around, I'm hearing, Wairoa and perhaps inland of the Esk Valley and further in towards the hinterlands there, of just some of those remote areas that perhaps we don't understand what their requirements are, and I would be very surprised if there are not further rescues required today.
Okay, so at this stage, would you say your role is more intel, trying to gather information from the air about damage to infrastructure, damage to buildings, damage to homes, that sort of thing?
I don't expect that to be exclusively our role. Of course, we have capabilities that can assist NEMA as they try to understand and improve, understand what needs to happen next throughout the day. And thankfully, as the system now moves away, I'm seeing that it's starting to, at least the rain has stopped in the worst affected areas. We're still getting it here in Wellington. And of course, my thoughts now go to the Chatham Islands, but hopefully they will dodge the worst of the weather. What I'm expecting is that there will be a host of things that need to be done. This is the Defence Force's main effort in support of NEMA and our government, and of course the people of New Zealand. And I expect there will be a raft of things we'll be doing. It'll be via transport. It'll be about helping understand what's happening from the air. It'll be about conducting rescues, and of course, there's going to be a seriously complicated logistics problem, particularly between Gisborne, Wairoa, down through to Napier. There's bridges out, there's trees down. So I expect we'll be called upon to assist with getting essential stores and supplies to those affected areas whilst trying to improve the understanding of the challenges there as well.
Yeah, how do you do that? As you said, the roads difficult for Unimogs and things. How best can you do that if it's an area like Wairoa? Is it the NH90s?
I would expect that the NH90s will be called upon for a raft of tasks today and in the coming days. And we may also be called upon to assist with getting heavier freight in and out of some of the larger centres or the longer runways. I would expect to be calling upon our C-130 Hercules and other assets to move things around to where they need to be, and we're shortening to move a couple of ships in Auckland with some thoughts about how they may be useful should we need to be able to support some of those remote coastal areas.
Are they, so you're talking about ships leaving Auckland to head towards Hawke's Bay, Tairāwhiti?
We are shortening the notice to move of HMNZS Manua-Nui. We just want to understand how best she can be used before we send her on away. I don't want to get her, rounding the top of Coromandel and finding that there were important stores containers that we could have put on her. So we're just making sure that we understand, one, that NEMA needs her, and two, what we might put on her in terms of not only stores but also the capabilities in terms of personnel.
In terms of personnel, how many have you got involved at the moment?
Well, it varies. I believe we have somewhere in the order of 250 people at the moment. It remarkably increases once you get a ship to sea because it takes into account the crew. But between 250 and 350 today. And of course, they're the people that we've got at the front line carrying out tasks. We've got a big command and control tail behind that, all supporting this main effort.
All right, Rear Admiral, it is great to have you on the program again. It is a shame about the circumstances, but we really appreciate your time as always. The New Zealand Defence Force Commander of Joint Forces, Rear Admiral Jim Gilmore, with us this morning.